Hey, welcome to Dan's Model Works, and as you can tell, we're at the clutter zone, and we're working on the modern wrecker truck. What is this? Part 7? Holy cripes. Okay, well, let's get on with it. Where are we at here? As you can see, I've got parts of the bed sitting to the side, and we have the basic frame for the wrecker starting to go together. And if you'll notice, there's white styrene there as opposed to the red parts that Italeri gives you. Basically, they want you to... this is obviously designed for another kit, one that the frame rails are a little closer together. So they would have you trim off these little tabs here. I decided to basically widen the frame so that it would fit this chassis a little bit better. Probably pure folly on my part, but hey, we all know I'm an idiot anyway. So as you can see, we're starting to put the bits and pieces together. Obviously, we're going to have to be doing something to enlarge our bodywork because it doesn't go all the way to the front. I haven't absolutely decided yet whether I'm going to completely scratch build it or if I'm going to use this bodywork as a basis and simply enlarge it. So, as for the cab, we still have some finish up work to do there. Probably I'm going to be painting the fenders as well. We obviously need all the crusty bits for the cab, and I'm deliberately leaving those off because there's going to be a lot of handling of this, and I don't want to be knocking anything off as I go. And there's a few details under the hood that still need to be done. So, without any further ado, let's get going here. One of the underhood details that still needs to go in is this snorkel arrangement that basically goes from the air cleaner that's mounted on the firewall, and then it goes down to the front of the turbo. So this is another one of these things where who knows how well it's going to fit with, everything, there being room for air all the way through the whole build. But at any rate, we'll see how that fits on. So Houston, we have a problem in that this pipe is supposed to go from the turbo right here to the air cleaner right there. And as you can see, it's not going to happen. Even if this intercooler pipe here had not been shortened, and it had to be shortened in order just to make it in place. So this pipe just is not going to make it. I don't know, maybe I haven't sold enough of my children's souls to Satan or something, I don't know. But at any rate, I'm going to have to do some serious modifications to this part to make it work. Alright, so the first step is the bottom part of that pipe. I cut that off and I glued it onto the turbocharger. And now I can hopefully construct a new pipe that will run from here over to the air cleaner. Took some piecing together, but we finally have a part that looks like it'll go between the air cleaner and the turbo. I'll have to put some filler on the joins, give it a coat of paint, but I think we finally have this wrapped up. Alright, so there's our hose going from our air cleaner to the turbo, finally in place. Not much more to do in the engine compartment now. Alright, now that we've got that pesky air intake taken care of, we can get back to work on the business end of the wrecker. Now I've put basically the sleeves that the spades run into, they're glued in place, that's fine. And this part here approximately goes on like that. And then we have the boom. And the boom goes on thusly. And as you can see, it's not much of a boom. Now, as we know from going to see a real wrecker truck at Ross Towing, the boom is usually extendable. So there's a piece inside that comes out. Now let's assume that the telescoping piece maybe comes to here. Okay, that makes a boom of about like that. Now, I know length isn't supposed to matter, but that's not very impressive. And as well as that, if we put this in the up position, once again, doesn't really inspire that much. So what we'll do is we're going to rework the boom, and these two little nubbies here, they're going to go away, as Eric the car guy would say. They're going away because they're part of the two hydraulic cylinders that go under the boom. We're going to be going with a hydraulic cylinder on either side of the boom. So I'm thinking let's maybe add at least an inch of total length to this. And then that would mean that the boom in the extended position was going to be probably almost another inch longer as well, maybe an inch and a half in terms of real measurements as opposed to scale measurements. Now this will also mean that our frame that goes on the truck is going to be longer. And I think I'm going to add that in about here. So I'm going to have to put another support in there-ish. And then I'll cut this, I'll move it farther forward, which shouldn't be a big deal. Kind of engineering this on the fly, because we want to end up with something that looks a lot closer to the truck we saw at Ross Towing. I've done a little bit of work on the hinge here so we can actually pivot things. As you can see, in the last little clip I said if I add an inch here, it will increase the boom length by about an inch. It'll actually increase it total by about 2 inches. Like I said, it's not going to be quite as large as the truck we saw at Ross Towing, but it's certainly going to be a little bit more impressive than what we've got here. This is going to increase in length, and the frame itself will increase in length. You can see the stretch that's gone into the actual wrecker frame right here. And it ended up going and actually an inch and a half, I believe. It was a couple days ago I did this. I have a memory like a sieve. Let's see. Yes, the actual stretch was an inch and a half. And then what I've done is I've actually plated a quarter of an inch past that in order to give it some strength. So now the boom will be stretched by the same inch and a half. Alright, so the boom has been extended by the same 1.5 inches overall. And basically in the rest position we want it to be sitting something like this. One of the things I'm going to do is this tail right here. I'm going to take that off. I'm going to cut that off. I'm going to narrow it so that it's small enough that it could telescope inside the main boom. I'm not actually going to model it in the extended position, but it's just going to look like it could extend if it was necessary. So that'll be the next step. As promised, I've cut the very end of the boom off and I've narrowed it. You can see how much narrower it is, and that will hopefully enable me to give the impression that it can telescope out. There's our first extension. I'm going to be doing at least one more before I glue the end of the boom back on. There is our second sleeve. I decided to plug the end to make it easier to glue the part that has all the pulleys and everything on it on the end there. And there is our end of our boom reattached. And hopefully you can see the fact that these parts kind of telescope now. Even if they don't practically work, at least there's the representation as that's what they should do. Now the next step is this part here needs to be a lot longer. Because if we look at the pictures of what we saw at Ross, the vertical member that goes down was quite a bit longer. As promised, here is our stretch. Now I decided to make it a little bit more vertical as opposed to keeping the slope, just because otherwise this would be sticking out from the back of the truck far too much. So the next step is going to be to mount the underreach or the stinger, and that's probably going to require some stretching as well. Okay, as you can see, I've got a clamp just holding the boom onto the hinge part here, just so I can get a feel for things. And it's also holding it up at a similar angle to what we saw on the Ross tow truck. So I've got the stinger kind of temporarily clipped on. You can see what that looks like there. Now this would be in the towing position. I still have to build the bar that the forks go on to that would be grabbing onto the front suspension of the vehicle being towed. But if I flip it up here, you can see that it'll end up coming about to the same height as the tow truck we saw at Ross. And when it's in the down position, you can see that it's about in the same position here. So this is pretty much the look that we're looking for here. So we'll end up having some hydraulic rams coming up here on either side of the boom. I was hoping to have a little bit more done on the wrecker for this episode. However, we've had a lot of snow in this area in the last few days, so I've had to do a lot of shoveling over at my parents' house, helping them out, as well as clearing my own driveway out, and of course Christmas shopping and all that kind of stuff. So I think I'm going to wrap up this particular episode. At least we have the basic skeleton of our wrecker done, and I'll be further refining things, putting more details on, and then hopefully next episode we'll actually start roughing in the body. So thanks for watching Dan's Model Works, and until next time, keep on modeling.